Welcome to Hebrew Interviews. My name's Dr. Trevor U. Dennis, and I just want to let you know that I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but we are on now, so we are going to get on with it in just a moment. But if this is your first time being with us, do like, subscribe, share, click the notification bell so that we know that you receive our updates and you'll receive notification of when we're going to go on live. Tonight, have we got something for you? Hallelujah. We welcome you, our audience, and of course, Mr. Vasco Stevens, who is in the background. He's backstage right now to Hebrew Interviews, where we seek for interesting people from our community to interview about important topics or issues that face our people. Issues like diabetes. Diabetes is one of the subject matters that we dealt with. We dealt with that one last week from the point of view of a diabetic consultant, Dr. Chris Manu. And he gave us the medical definition and the view of how to deal with this particular disease from the medical side. Well, our disclaimer tonight is this. We are not medical doctors, nor do we claim to be. Everything shared tonight or today is a personal testimony or the experience of my guest who is going to come on in a little while. If you have any questions, please post them. Start posting them now. Soon as the issues raised, you can pose your questions and my moderator will lift them and send them over to me. And before the end of the program, you have my word that we will deal with your question if it's not already dealt with. Whew, wow. So, are you ready? Are you ready? Today, we're going to hear the testimony of someone who has been affected by diabetes and whom the medical prediction or prognosis was that they had the diabetes, but the medical profession would say that he put it in remission. But he himself would say that it wasn't remission, but he reversed his condition. That is his opinion, and he's entitled to it. And he will give you both his experience and the medical facts that prove what he has to say. So, today, before we get into it too deeply, I would like to introduce to some and present to others Mr. Vasco Stevenson. Hello there, Mr. Stevenson. How you doing?
Sorry, hold on.
We can hear you good. Yes, we can hear you
Yes,
fine.
Sorry, I am absolutely fine. Can you hear
Wonderful.
me? I'm wonderful.
Yes,
I'm fine.
we can hear you fine.
Yeah.
So, my first question is this. Could you please present to the world Mr. Vasco Stevenson? Introduce yourself to the world, tell them something about the man and his family background. Just, open up and present yourself. Introduce yourself, please.
Well, very quickly, I was born in the very beautiful but small island of Barbados. And my first job there at the age of 19 was school teaching, believe it or not. And didn't get on very well with the headmaster because they had a very Victorian approach to discipline. And I am not in favor of corporal punishment or anything like that. Not when it comes to little children, especially. And we had a slight altercation, resulting in the fact that I resigned and came to England. My first, of course, the easiest way out of the Caribbean at that time, especially Barbados, was to come on London Transport. And for 7 years, I worked on the underground, driving trains, and then decided that I could do better than that, and went into financial services, where I spent about 26 years of my life. I was privileged to travel to some pretty exotic places, all expenses paid, stayed in some very nice hotels, some of them being the top hotels in the world. And I sold on my service, my practice in 1996, and went into another type of occupation where we started a small company, some other gentlemen and myself. Unfortunately, we had to liquidate that company in September 2019 because of changes in the mortgage and financial market. And nowadays, I give presentations on aspects of health, some Black history, and current events. Let's put it that way. And I run a radio show every Sunday morning from 10 to 12. I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen in this morning, but that's what I do. And later on tonight, ironically, I will be in a Zoom uh, meeting. I'm making a presentation on a little gland in the middle of the brain called the pineal gland. And that's what I'll be talking about fairly late tonight. So, I expect to get to bed fairly early in the morning.
So you've been quite a businessman in your lifetime. What you've been doing is mostly business of one form or another.
Absolutely correct, yes. And, you know, when you work, and I have a little joke when people say work, I say work is a four-letter word, yes? So, which it is, of course, if you look at it practically. But sometimes you have this desire to create something for yourself or do something for yourself. You really don't want someone telling you when to start, when you finish, how many weeks holiday you can have, how much they're going to pay you. That's not freedom. That's being controlled by your job or your bosses or whatever. So
Yeah.
I believe that if more people were to start little enterprises, especially in our community, yes, the unemployment rate in our community would drop considerably. But we have been conditioned over generations to think of being employed by someone else. And if you look at other communities, we'll find that a lot of those other communities employ their own people.
Mm-hmm.
Asian communities, for instance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, any money that is generated in those communities circulate within that community for quite some time. Whereas in the Black community or the African community, that money comes in by way of salaries and wages, and it goes straight back out. It doesn't circulate in that community. And as a consequence of that, lots of Africans are not really enriching themselves as we should be doing.
That's right. As a community, we're the only community that spends our money with every other community apart from our own. But that's a sidetrack, and I think I need to reserve that one for another show. However, tell us something about your family. Your family and that you come from and the family that you have. Do tell us.
Okay, right. I was the third of 8 children, and my parents were very poor. Used to work on a sugar plantation in Barbados, and I was doing so well at primary school that my school teacher rode his bicycle home to my parents and said, "Look, you've got to try and give him a secondary education because he's doing so well at school." Of course, my parents could ill afford it. And I remember my father in particular saying, and this has stayed with me over all this time. He
Mm-hmm.
works in the sugarcane field, and if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for his children. My mother, on the other hand, was a little bit different. She was not someone to trifle with, not someone to get on the wrong side of. But in that regard, she said, "Yes, I'm going to try with him." And that's how I was able to pass my 11 plus and go to secondary school. Okay.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And
But
you have some children as well?
I've got two children, a boy and a girl, and three grandchildren. And the 22, 15, and 8, my grandchildren.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
That
and they're all lovely. And I'm happy to say that I see them quite often. And I do believe that I have had some serious input into shaping their characters. So they're all very nice people.
I'm
Like,
sure they'll turn out to be business people as well.
well, ironically, I went a couple of years ago when my grandson was about 3 years younger, and I gave them some pocket money. I gave him some, and I said, "What are you going to do with it?" His immediate reply to me was, "Of course, I'm going to save it, Granddad." And I'm teaching the little one, his young sister, how to save as well. Right? She was about 5. I'm teaching her how to save as well. I'm not like my big sister. She's always spending money. So
Well, I think it's the profession of women. They love to spend with money.
yes,
Not
yes,
all of them. Not all of them.
especially our money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
last week we had a diabetic consultant on, and he gave what would be the medical professional definition of diabetes and
Yes.
said that it is a degenerate disease that makes the blood sticky and sweet. What's your opinion of this type of definition?
Degenerative. All diseases are degenerative if you don't treat them. Yes.
Mhm.
Uh, Makes the blood sweet. That's the medical term. And sticky. Well, there are lots of other things that make the blood sticky as well. But I would say that diabetes is simply um, lack of glucose getting into the cells to energize the cells.
So, cell starvation.
Cell starvation, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So tell us, when did you first become aware of the condition of diabetes in your life? Tell us about that.
Right. What happened is that I have a very nice GP, Nigerian gentleman, about 20 years my younger than me. I estimate that. And when I go to the surgery to have an MOT, I have an MOT every year. Okay. I give them 2 vials of blood and they tell me what's going on in my body. And I usually ask for a printout. So when I get that printout, I come home and I compare it with the previous year just to see how my body is operating. And I had put on a little bit of weight, and he said to me one year, Mr. Stevenson, I've never checked you for diabetes. You know, you put on a bit of weight. And I was at that time feeling a little bit tired, but I didn't associate it with diabetes.
Mhm.
So he said I should give him a urine sample, which I did. He went away and came back, and for the first time, he wasn't smiling. And I said to myself, oh, something's wrong. He's not smiling, right? And he said, I think you're diabetic, and I'm going to send you away for a glucose tolerance test. So I went to another clinic, uh, did the glucose tolerance test. And when I went back to the surgery, he came out again, shook his head and said, I'm sorry, but you're diabetic. And then he looked me in the eye and said, I know you quite well. You're not going to take any tablets, are you? So I said, no, why should I? Because I think I know a little bit about the human body and a little bit about illnesses. And then he said, okay, do what you have to do, and I'll see you in 6 months' time. So I came home, went through my literature, got stacks of books and other things like that, mainly on health. And I came across a book written by a medical doctor, and the title was Reverse Diabetes Now. Okay, so I took that book down, read it from cover to cover, and I was intrigued by what he was saying. He made the point that many years ago, diabetes was not as rampant as it is now. And he pointed the finger squarely on dairy products. Back in time, people only had meat and other things at weekends, but now they're eating meat every day, saturated fat, all kinds of different stuff. And his solution was to cut out all dairy products for 21 days. You know, there's a saying that if you do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, no dairy products for 21 days, but add half a teaspoon of cinnamon to your diet. I went a step further and added another herb called fenugreek. And I went back to the surgery after 4 months. I, of course, did a little bit of exercise as well. I went into the gym and went on the treadmill for a little while. And I went back to the surgery after 4 months and no diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and said, tell me how you did it. Up to today, I haven't mentioned to him how I've done it, yes? And that was in 2006, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never taken any tablets for diabetes. Every year I go and have my diabetic eye test. You know, once you're in the system, you have to go and have this annual eye test. And every time I go, they say to me, what are you coming here for? I said, well, I'm in the system, so the system says I come and I come. So that is, I control it or got rid of it by diet and lifestyle.
You put some exercise in there as well, didn't you?
Yes, you have to exercise somewhat. I don't mean going into the gym and pumping weights and all of that kind of stuff. Quick walking, a little bit of running, or sometimes you leave the car at home and you run and catch the bus, or walk down to the train station or something like that, or go dancing, that kind of stuff.
So, do you test yourself for the blood? Do you
No, I
test
don't.
your blood?
No, I don't do that. No, I've never
When they
done it.
check you, do they check you for the level of your fats?
No. What happens is that every year I still go and give 2 vials of blood for my MOT. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they, of course, check for the diabetes and they check the kidneys and your thyroid and all of that.
Okay.
But I don't do the finger test because a lot of people do it, but that will only tell you what your blood sugar is at that point in time.
That's correct.
But the real test is what they call, I think it's called an HB1AC test.
That's
And
correct.
that will test your diabetes over a 3-month period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a more accurate marker of how your blood sugar is doing than just pricking your finger one morning and testing it and saying, oh, my sugar is up.
Yes. The fasting blood sugar test, which is first thing in the morning, tells you how your body is recovered from whatever you ate the day before.
Absolutely.
And if it's recovering slowly and your sugars are high, it means that your processing is very bad.
Right.
So, yeah, I hear you.
Mm.
After you were diagnosed initially, did your doctor offer you any particular pills and potions?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't because he knows me quite well, you see. I am averse to taking pills and tablets and all of that. And of course, I give talks on certain aspects of health. As you know, one of my favorites is raising awareness about the prostate gland and other stuff like that. So he knows what I do, and he thinks that I am reasonably well informed. So when I say I'm not going to take any tablets, he doesn't try to argue with me or force something on me.
Okay. So what can you tell us more specifically about the kind of diet that you used?
Right. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I have reduced my consumption of dairy products considerably. And I try to eat, when I eat carbohydrates, I try to make sure they're complex carbohydrates and not simple carbohydrates that will spike your blood sugar.
Explain that, please.
Right. When you eat sweet potato, plantain, and other bananas,
Provision type food.
green bananas,
Mm-hmm.
What happens is that they release the sugar very slowly and over a longer period of time. So that doesn't give your blood sugar that spike. Uh, Unlike when you eat a bit of white bread or cake or something like that, where you know your energy goes up and in half an hour it drops back down again. You feel hungry and you're going to eat something else again. So
Mm-hmm.
by eating complex carbohydrates, you can have a proper breakfast in the morning, as I do. Always have a good breakfast, but then I don't need to eat again until late afternoon, say 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. So I only have 2 meals a day, you see, because the first one sets me up for the day. And in between, I may drink some water, or if I feel like it, I may even have a banana. But having a
Mm-hmm.
lunch as such is not something I do.
Okay. So you're having complex carbs, and I guess one way of making even things like rice more complex would be to put peas, beans, or lentils into it, and have it more like a, the red bean rice that the Caribbean folks like. Would
Oh
you?
yes, red kidney beans. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're talking about a complex diet.
Yeah.
So do you eat crisps and things like that and biscuits?
Um, when I try to raise awareness about this issue and other issues, I say to people, you're a human being. You have to enjoy yourself. So you're allowed one naughty day per week. Okay. So on that day, one day a week, you can have anything you want to eat, but in moderation. Don't go over the top. The other 6 days, get back on whatever regime you put yourself on.
Hmm.
And that seems to work because I've spoken to so many people over the years. I myself do it and it seems to work.
So you have put other people onto this. You switched other people onto this lifestyle. Is
Yes,
that
it's a
correct?
it's a dietary and lifestyle change. Absolutely correct. Yes.
Mm. Well, that's fantastic. Tell
It,
us.
sorry, it calls for a certain amount of discipline though,
Yep.
because without that mental strength and that discipline, you can very easily fall back into the old regime. And of course, this is where the system will say it's in remission because if you get back into bad habits, that diabetes or that diabetic challenge recurs. So, really, what you want to do is discipline the mind first.
So basically, when a person adopts this lifestyle,
Mm.
they have to continue with it. It's not something they can go back on and think, "Oh, I'm healed now. I'm sorted now. I no longer. I can go back to eating sweets. I can go back to having crisps and all the things that they used to have before and the sugar pops."
Yeah, absolutely correct. You have to maintain that lifestyle because that's how you got the challenge in the first place because you had a poor diet and a poor lifestyle. So it stands to reason that if you revert to that type of behavior, that whatever challenge you've had is going to come back. Makes
Okay,
sense, doesn't it?
it does to me. Are
Mm.
there any particular foods or drinks that you're found in this particular lifestyle don't help at all?
Oh, good grief. Yes. Well, alcohol, of course, is a no-no, and I am not much into alcohol. Sweet drinks, yes. Or when people buy cartons of drinks, those
Carton juice,
juices, yes, in those
boxes
cartons.
of juice. Okay, they're not good
Right.
for you. What
Well,
else?
no, especially I say to people, look for 3 words on those cartons. Okay, the first one is high fructose corn syrup. It's not a word; it's more than one word, but high fructose corn syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Look for the word concentrate. That means that the sugars are concentrated. And the
Mm-hmm.
third one is something called aspartame. Okay. And I say to people, if you see any of these on any cartoons of drink that you may be buying for yourself or your children or grandchildren, don't buy them.
Mm-hmm.
It is better to go home, buy a little, what do you call them? Magic. bullet.
Yeah, magic super bullet, magic bullet, whatever.
Yeah,
A blender.
Ninja. I got a little one, a Ninja, and it's better to go down the market and buy some berries. Yes, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, or pineapple, or cucumber, anything like that, and make your own drink at home. Right? You know what's in it. The sugars are not concentrated, and when you eat those, when you drink that, not only is it hydrating, extremely hydrating, but it comes with minerals and vitamins,
Mhm.
right? And that is basically how I live. I don't drink pop drinks and that kind of stuff. Not
So
normally.
you ban those. Perhaps you ban tea and coffee as well.
I'm not a lover of coffee. I don't know the last day I drank coffee, but occasionally I'll drink natural tea. But my regime in the morning, when I get up first thing in the morning, I'll have a cup of green tea or ginseng tea or peppermint tea, and I will add certain things to that. For instance, lemon juice, I will add to it. Cider apple vinegar, I will add to it, and half a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. And that's
What
my
you add to
first.
your tea?
That's my first drink in the morning. Yes.
To your tea, you add bicarbonate
No,
soda.
not normal tea. This is herbal tea. Yes.
Okay, so
So if it's
you're
a
not talking about workman's tea. You're talking about herbal tea.
yes, if it's a herbal tea, I will add those herbs and other things to it. But if it's a normal cup of chow, English type of tea, I will just put some coconut milk in it. I'm sorry, I can't call it milk because it doesn't come from a mammal, but coconut, milk for the sake of the discussion, and drink it
Mm,
without
mm.
sugar, of course.
I've heard that the fizzy drinks are not good for you. What do you say
No,
about that?
yeah, fizzy drinks are not good for you because they are full of soda. And soda, of course, is something that can spike your blood sugar quite easily. So keep away from fizzy drinks as well. Keep away from white bread. Yes,
White bread?
there's a joke going around. I don't know if I should say this, but you should keep away from whites. Anyway, anything that's white bread,
White sugar?
white
Yeah.
sugar, white potatoes,
White flour?
white flour. Because when you're talking about diabetes, there's something called the glycemic index. Okay,
Hmm.
and that is a marker as to how a particular food will affect your blood sugar. And there, you look at a list of the foods, and if that food is say has a number under 55, that's fine. You can eat it. Then between 56 and 70, that's you know moderate. You can eat that occasionally, but anything over 70 is going to spike your blood sugar, something rotten. So you keep
Hmm.
away from those foods that have a high glycemic index.
Hmm.
And
And I
that's
guess drinks are the worst because drinks go directly into your bloodstream, which is why if
absolutely.
you drink certain drinks, they'll spike your blood sugar like crazy.
And
Mm.
then, of course, when that spike is finished, yes, you have a craving then for another drink.
Hey,
So,
that means that there are certain companies, fast food companies, that should be off your list because that's all they do is give you food that spikes your blood sugar and makes you crave for more.
well, you use the word food, brother, you Dennis. You use the word food. What's the definition? What's the dictionary definition of food?
It'll be
Food,
something that feeds your body, right?
not just feed, something that nourishes the body.
Nutrification, yeah.
Nourishes, not just feed. Yes? Because fast food will feed your body, but it will feed your body what the body doesn't want or what the body cannot use properly to give you good health. So something that nourishes the body is food. And that's why when I talk about junk, I don't say junk food.
These are
Because
junk or it's food, that's right.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. And
And
it
there's a
is,
whole heap of junk out there.
I tell you, I call it the box culture.
Hmm.
And the I think it was the Observer magazine, Observer newspaper back in 2012 had an article. I can remember it like now, and it was talking about this box culture that these young people are hooked into. Okay, and it was making the point that these youngsters are building up a case for Alzheimer's sometime down the road if they're hooked into this box culture, because the preservatives and additives that are in what they're eating
Mm-hmm.
is, addictive, as
Mm-hmm.
addictive as cocaine or heroin. So
Mm-hmm.
once you start down that road on the box culture, it's very difficult to get off of it.
They've done worse. They're now on what we call the microwave culture. And Japan has legislated probably about a year ago or two to get rid of microwaves out of their country because they realize that they're poisoning their people. But we
Yes,
love microwave. Everything must be now.
yes, but I don't know if the Japanese have looked at, but I'm certain they would have been Japanese. The other aspect of microwaves, as opposed to the preparation of food or warming up of food or something like that, because we are living in an electric soup, yes, a radiation soup that we're living
Mm-hmm.
in. And microwaves, of course, give off lots of radiation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I can understand getting rid of them completely. I don't keep one anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wish I'd gone that far, but I haven't, so I have to hold my peace. So, did you ever use anything apart from diet and a bit of exercise
Nothing
to help you
whatsoever.
along?
Nothing whatsoever. No, I
Nothing.
don't. No, just diet and exercise, and a strong mindset.
Okay. So, the medical profession tells people that
Mhm.
diabetes cannot be cured.
Mhm.
What does your opinion and experience tell you?
Well, it can be cured. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not diabetic. Every year I go, I have my tests, and this is since 2006, and I am not diabetic. My eyesight is particularly good, not quite 20/20, but nearly there. And you know, I am not putting on weight. I don't feel tired, and at my age, I think I'm doing reasonably well, or so my GP thinks. I agree with him, and I'm pretty okay health wise. But the go-to medication for diabetes is something that I try to highlight sometimes if somebody asks me about diabetes, because the
Mhm.
go-to drug is something called metformin,
Yeah.
right? And I have come across quite a lot of reports from very reputable and high-powered doctors and scientists and other people who write on health issues, which I read quite avidly and quite a lot. And they are actually saying that metformin has two side effects that anyone who's taken that drug should be aware of. Firstly, it is said that it wipes out vitamin B12 from your brain, your body. Now, vitamin B12 is said to be the only B vitamin that your body can store, okay? Because the other, it being a water soluble vitamin, or group of vitamins B12, your body shouldn't be able to store them. So you have to keep replenishing. But
Hmm.
B12 is the only one your body can store, right? And for good reason, because B12 helps keep Alzheimer's at bay. And the second one is that prolonged use of metformin, they say, will actually dry up whatever insulin your pancreas is producing. So now you are in a degenerative state and have to behave like a type 1 diabetic and start injecting insulin into yourself. And I've actually, over the years, spoken to about 7 people who have actually said that's what's happened to them.
Mm.
What I also find rather odd, and this is where people fall down, they let themselves down, because once they start taking the metformin, they
Hmm.
never change their diet and lifestyle. They
Yep.
maintain the same diet and lifestyle that
Hmm.
got them into the problem in the first place.
Yep.
and they rely solely on the metformin to work for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
then, of course, you know, the end result is not what is conducive to good health.
So changing your lifestyle is very important.
Absolutely crucial.
In fact,
Absolutely
yeah.
crucial. But again, to change your lifestyle and your diet, you have to change your mindset initially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not until people begin to take their situation seriously that they actually do that. And it's to your credit that you grasp this particular concept and branch very early. Soon
Oh
as you were
yes,
told, you made the change.
yeah.
And so you didn't live in that for years and years.
No, no. I am an avid reader of health, and I like to get into health discussions and help raise awareness and all of that. So when I'm raising awareness, I have to know something about what I'm talking about, so that I can show people how to take the information that I'm disseminating, how to take that on board. And if they need a mentor, if they need someone to prop on occasionally, pick up the telephone and have a little chat with me or something like that, you know. Or if you feel that you haven't got the willpower to persevere with the regime that you're on, just pick up the phone and I'll buddy you along.
Mhm. So a lot of people actually take up the challenge and then they basically back away from it over time.
Yes,
Most
yes,
people don't seem to realize that if you pursue, let's just say you wanted to lose weight and you pursue an exercise program and you have all these goals and you drop off all the weight and your one pack turns into a six pack, that whatever you did to get there, you're going to have to keep doing to stay on top of it. So,
absolutely, absolutely. But the thing with the dietary changes that I have had to make is that they're very easy to maintain.
so what I was going to ask you is, could you talk us through breakfast and dinner because you only have
Yes.
two meals a day? Talk us through the variety of meals that you have for breakfast and then for your dinner, please.
Okay. After I've had my first drink in the morning, about half an hour after that, I will probably have breakfast. Breakfast is mainly one of two things. I can have rolled oats. Okay. In that rolled oats, I will put some coconut milk, a little bit of coconut milk. Then I will put herbs and spices. I will put some ginger. I'll put cinnamon. I'll put fenugreek. I'll put allspice. Yeah, and cloves and herbs and all of that. And because it's complex, it's going to last for a long period of time. Of course, it's also full of fiber, and fiber is very important for the process of elimination. Okay, that is one breakfast I would have. The other
Did you
one,
just say you put cloves in your breakfast?
if it's porridge, yes, cloves.
Cloves.
Cloves, not clothes, not the clothes are there.
Clove. Clove.
Cloves, yes,
Wow.
Cloves, yes.
Oh, okay. The
Because
second breakfast.
all of these herbs come with certain um, chemicals and properties that help maintain good health. Okay. The second one is I'll have half of a ripe plantain, which
Mhm,
again is a complex carbohydrate. I will probably have a tin of sardines with
mhm.
that, or maybe a boiled egg. And then the herbs and spices again come into play. I don't go a day without them. Okay. So that's my breakfast. Or a pita bread. If I don't feel like having the plantain, I'll have a pita bread. Low on the glycemic index. And that keeps me going until 4 or 5 o'clock. I don't have to eat in between. Probably drink some water. But then again, when I'm not eating in between, I'm doing what is known as intermittent fasting. So that also helps as well. Okay. Then
So
when it comes,
explain intermittent fasting to people who may not know what it is.
yes, intermittent fasting is where you're not putting fuel in the body and asking the body to consume that fuel, for energy. So the body's using up what's already in there, okay? And you're not replenishing that until a prolonged period of time. The end result is that you're going to lose weight and keep that weight off. You're going to feel much better within yourself because it's going to have tremendous uh, mental and physical benefits. And as long as you keep yourself properly hydrated, that's going to work wonders for you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then come dinner time, I will have sometimes a little bit of brown rice. Okay? I do have a little bit of chicken sometimes, or a little bit of salmon. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I love sweet potato, which is very low on the glycemic index. So I eat any amount of sweet potato. It is not going to spike your blood sugar. It's probably the best food in the world, sweet potato. And then I can also have, what else do I have? Half a bit of plantain or something like that as a side dish. But for my salad now, I will have beetroot, cucumber. Oh, and I completely forgot avocado.
Mm-hmm. My wife loves avocado.
To me, it's the second best fruit in the world after the coconut. Yeah. So that's what I will have as my salad: avocado, beetroot, and cucumber. And
Okay.
that essentially is my almost my daily routine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you have these particular foods that you eat to maintain your health and to maintain your regime. Do you have a breakout of that routine?
Well, as I said, sometimes I allow myself one naughty day per week.
One
Um,
naughty day per week.
yes, yeah, I'm a human being and I've got to enjoy myself. If I go to a function or something and there's a little bit of cake there or something like that, I may just have a small piece to say that I've had a small piece of cake, you know.
Mhm.
Or someone has what we call fish cake, I may have one just to say I'm there. But when I leave that function, I am back on my regime.
All right. Then tell us a little bit about any challenges you may have had along the way. What
Uh,
challenges have you faced on this particular journey?
there have been many challenges because the saying, inside of us there are two wolves fighting. Yes, you know that old concept.
Mm-hmm.
And which wolf wins, and that's the one you choose to feed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so sometimes the bad wolf will say, "Hey, eat that, do that." Okay, and I have to discipline myself. And the way I've learned to do it is quite simple, and I think anybody can do it. I don't think in terms of that is Satan, that's the devil. I say to myself, there's a bit of negative energy flying around now. Let's get that out of the way. And the way I get rid of negative energy, I would put on a good piece of music, and that lifts my mood straight away, and that negative energy is gone. So by nature, almost, I am shall I say, easygoing, yes, fun-loving to a degree type of person. And I try to maintain a positive approach to life, a positive approach to everything I do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think um, my diet and lifestyle enhance that because what I eat benefits my body, it helps my mood, it helps me feel good about myself. And if I feel good about myself, I feel good about people around me and about the world. But
Okay.
the challenges do come from time to time. And it's really a mental challenge rather than an external challenge. It's an inner challenge more than anything else.
Okay. Can you tell us some of the specific challenges that you would like to share with us that you've had to face?
Well, the specific challenge. Yes, I've been into functions and been into places, and people have tried to be awkward with me. I was case in point, and this hasn't got anything to do with diet or lifestyle. About 2 to 3 Sundays ago, I do radio every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. And I was on my way to the studio. I was on a bus. I've never worn a mask during this pandemic. And there were about 5 or 6 people on the bus, all wearing masks. I got on, and no sooner had I sat down than a person, I hesitate to use the word gentleman, a person sitting on the opposite side of the bus, the aisle is between us, he took exception to the fact that I was there without a mask. And he shouted at me, "Where's your mask?" So I looked around at him, and I just touched my nose, indicating to him that's not his business. The driver didn't care that I came on without a mask. Why should a passenger be worried about my not wearing a mask? And the guy just went off like a rocket, started hurling expletives left, right, and center, sticking his finger in the air at me, and he actually wished that I would die. And then he got up in a huff, went down to the back seat, which was empty, that long seat at the back of the bus, and kept shaking his head, and I thought, he's got a bigger issue than just, my not wearing a mask. There's something wrong with this guy. He's got an emotional, mental issue, I think. Ironically, at the next bus stop, a young guy got on, and he wasn't wearing a mask. And guess where he went and sat down? At the back seat where this guy was sitting. And the guy got up, no, bloody mask, and rushed back to the front of the bus. And for the rest of my journey, he was standing where they put the prams and the wheelchairs. He stood up there, and I got off the bus at the next stop. But it goes to show you that you have to be composed and calm within yourself. You have to know who and what you are. Okay, you have to know yourself. So
one of the things the consultant raised last week was that stress can affect diabetes.
Yes, it can. Stress can affect anything. Diabetes, high blood pressure. It can, because what happens when your body's stressed out, okay, it gives rise to inflammation. And inflammation is at the root cause of almost every disease. Yeah. So your body's stressed out. And when you're stressed out, you have a tendency to eat, to overeat, to pick.
I know someone like that, yeah.
Yeah. And when you go and pick and eat, it is not necessarily healthy food that you're eating. You'll go and have ice cream, you'll go and have cheese, you'll have this and that and the other. All of that is going to put your health on a downward spiral, which is really what you don't want. It's going to make your body acidic. That is then going to give rise to inflammation, which then gives rise to disease.
Why don't you speak to that for just a moment? There are people who eat a lot of foods that make their bodies acidic, and I have heard that alkalinity is the key to health, to having a healthy body environment. So can you speak to that for just a moment?
Yes. Yeah. The body should be in a state called homeostasis, which is balance, yes? And according to the experts, balance is not 50-50. Balance is 51% alkaline and 49% acidic. And that's what you should be trying to achieve and maintain. And you can only do that by adopting certain lifestyles and, of course, eating certain foods. So on the one hand, you have certain foods that will alkaline the body or alkalize the body, and other foods that will make the body acidic. Now, meat, yes, white potatoes, dairy products, all of those will make the body acidic. But if you eat sweet potatoes and pumpkin and plantain and okras, yes, and the green vegetables, broccoli, kale, spinach, cauliflower, they are all alkalizing foods. So, but having said that, it doesn't mean that you should not eat some of the acid forming foods, because some of those foods come with properties that your body requires, maybe in small amounts, but you should have them. So
Mhm.
you have to strike this balance between what is going to alkalize your body and what is going to make your body acidic.
I know
Water,
some. Sorry.
water, for instance, is meant to be neutral at 7. Okay, the scale is 0 to 14. Anything under 7 is going to be alkalizing. Anything over 7 is going to be acid forming. And water is meant to be neutral at 7. But of
Mhm.
course, the water we are drinking today is, to my estimation, not uh, neutral at all. I think
Mhm.
water is quite acidic. That's why we have to purify our water before we drink it.
Mhm.
But here's something else. If you buy organic vegetables, cabbages, cauliflower, um, radishes, cucumbers, or if you eat pineapples, what else? Watermelons, they all have juice in them that has now been called EZ water or structured water. Okay, we
Mhm.
call it the juice of those fruits and vegetables because they're water. And as you know, the human body is about 75% water. Mhm.
Mhm.
So by drinking and eating those foods with a high water content, you are alkalizing your body, you're hydrating your body, and you're giving your body certain minerals and vitamins that you wouldn't get from H2O.
Mhm.
So, my way of thinking, which a lot of experts, um, have put up there, and I agree with it. I read their stuff. Is that this concept of drinking 8 pints of water per day is not correct. In the hot weather, as a male, an adult male, 2 liters of water per day because you're going to be sweating and breathing, and when you breathe, you lose uh, water and all of that. But if you also eat cucumbers and watermelon and pineapples, you that is going to be more hydrating than the H2O. So 2 liters of water for a male in a hot summer day, plus um, pineapples and watermelons.
I know someone who puts a lemon inside of their drink every morning, and they
Well,
feel
that's what
that's essential for alkalizing their body.
well that's what I do first thing in the morning. Remember when I have my herbal tea? Yes,
Mhm.
I
Lemon
have
or lime, that is.
the lemon. The lemon is in there as well. Lemon, bicarbonate of soda, which is also extremely alkalizing. Apple cider vinegar, yes, and the green tea or peppermint or ginseng tea.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what you're doing, you're setting your body up for the day, okay? And you're saying to your liver, which is the main organ for detoxification, you're saying to your liver, hey, I'm awake and I'm getting on the job, so you get on the job as well, mate. You come on, you've got your job to do, get on with it. So you're giving
Wonderful.
your liver a wake up call to get cracking.
Wonderful. So, are there any people around you that you know have had specific challenges that you may want to share with us?
Well, unfortunately, I've got to say yes to that because on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock, I'm attending the funeral of one of my old buddies from way back in the 1960s. And he suffered from diabetes, which he couldn't control. So he has now passed. He joined the ancestors, and he's going to be interred on Tuesday morning. And I've come across lots of other people as well who have um, had issues with their eyesight. And what one gentleman I know who's had his toes amputated, all because of uncontrolled diabetes.
Hmm. Well, I'm
But
sorry to hear that, of course.
yeah,
Um, but is there anything you'd like to share with us about the learning you've gleaned along the way concerning dealing with diabetes?
yes, yes.
What
It's a
have you
very
learned?
if left untreated, it's a very, very nasty disease to have because it can impact every other organ on your body. And if you have diabetes for the long term, you dramatically increase your risk of high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, stroke, heart attack. You also increase your risk of amputations. Yeah. So it is nothing to trifle with. It's a very, very nasty and insidious disease. So you really have to pay attention to it. But the irony of it is that in the UK in 2018, it was said that there are about 3.7 or 3.5 diabetics, and they were not including those who had not been diagnosed because they don't know who they are. And of course, there's a state called pre-diabetic, where someone has not been diagnosed as diabetic, but because of their diet and lifestyle, they're on their way to becoming diabetic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can see them, the excess weight's coming on, but they have not been diagnosed as yet. And these people have got to look at themselves, look at their lifestyle, look at their diet, and seriously consider their health overall. Get a bit of exercise, and otherwise, what the evidence is showing that people are living longer and longer than they did before. But the last 15 years of life are fraught with disease, not
Mm-hmm.
just diabetes, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, cancer, all of that. And if people really want to live healthy lives, then from now they've got to start, doing something about it. The earlier you can start addressing that issue of health, the better it will be.
It's interesting, isn't it? That it appears as though around about 50, a lot of people's health start to decline from then on. So
Yes,
what you're saying is that people should start addressing their health and taking a hold of it as early as possible rather
yes,
than waiting till later on.
yeah. Don't be reactive. Don't be reactive. That's what people are. Yes, they wait
Mm-hmm.
until something happens or disease is diagnosed, and then they want an immediate cure. Mhm. If
Mm-hmm.
people were to be proactive about their lives now, about their health, then the incidence of all these diseases would diminish considerably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Eat
Yes.
the right foods, have the right mindset. Yes, don't overindulge, and just drink plenty of good, clean water because that's also important.
Now, given that most of our water is chemicalized and still has pathogens in it, etc., what would you recommend if people wanted to have clean water? What do you do?
Well, I don't have a water filter under my tap. Okay, what I have when I want water for me to use personally in my cooking or drinking, I have a very large container, glass container. And in that glass container, I have two very large chunks of a mineral called shungite. I'm wearing a shungite necklace as we speak, yes? And shungite um, contains something like little footballs called fullerenes, and they absorb all the impurities from water, including fluoride, um, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, which we find in drinking water. And of course, one other thing I should mention is estrogen. Yes, because there's still women who take contraceptive pills. That estrogen goes into the water, and although the water is said to be purified and cleaned up, going through all these different filters and all of that, they don't get all the impurities out. But this shungite apparently does the trick. And if I drink ordinary water, I taste it, and I taste the water from the shungite that I purified, there is a major difference in the taste.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes cleaner, purer, everything.
So where would people get this shundite from?
Um, well, I used to have a very good acquaintance who lives in Barcelona, and he used to bring it over. But I think over the last 18 months, because of the pandemic, he hasn't been able to come over to the country with it. But there's still other people here, other places where you can get some in small quantities. But he brings large chunks of it over from Spain. And when we have our different health seminars and gatherings all over the place, he sits at a table and he sells it off.
Okay. Is there any other advice from your experience that you'd like to share?
Yes, there are certain herbs and spices I think people ought to make um, part of their daily routine.
Mm-hmm.
And these herbs and spices um, are very conducive to good health. And the first herb I will think about is turmeric. Okay, to me that's the number one herb in the world. And I must mention too that when you're using turmeric, you should always use it in conjunction with black pepper,
Yes.
because the compound in the turmeric, which is called curcumin, is not readily absorbed by your body unless the compound from the black pepper, which is called piperine, is present. So if you use turmeric on its own, your body doesn't absorb the curcumin as readily as it should. But when you use it with black pepper, yes, it's more bioavailable, as they say. So turmeric is one. Now, if people are eating a lot of dairy products, what they're doing is building up a lot of saturated fat in their arteries.
Mm-hmm.
And that saturated fat, of course, blocks the free flow of blood. So you can then either get a heart attack or even a stroke. So one of the first things you have to do then is to thin your blood out, okay? And you can do that quite easily. Turmeric itself is a blood thinner. But if you add things like cayenne pepper, yes, very, very good for the heart, a very good blood thinner. If excuse me, if you add cinnamon, yes, cinnamon,
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, helps take the fat out of the cells, right? In addition to being a blood thinner, it takes the fat out of the cells and it allows the insulin, the glucose, to enter the cells and energize them. So if you want to reduce your risk of diabetes, you should add cinnamon to your daily routine. And one of the things about cinnamon I should mention is that you should not use more than half a teaspoon per day. Anything more than that could be toxic, yes? So
Mm-hmm.
half a teaspoon of cinnamon per day.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's turmeric, cinnamon, cayenne pepper. Also, cider apple vinegar that helps take fat out of the blood as well, and
Mm-hmm.
helps the blood to flow more freely. So when your blood is flowing freely, you reduce your risk of so many different ailments,
Mm-hmm.
diabetes, heart problems, um, strokes,
Sure.
yeah. And of course, when the blood flows freely, what does it do? It also takes oxygen to all the parts of your body that need it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, remember too that the further away you go from the heart, you go from arteries, you go to capillaries, which are smaller than the arteries. Okay. And if your blood is full of fat, that means that it's going to have trouble getting through those capillaries. So you've got to get that fat out. And that's why with diabetes, you'll find that one of the first things they do, if you have a problem, a serious problem, and your nerves in your legs are affected, something called peripheral neuropathy, what happens then is that they'll take your toe off
Mm-hmm.
because the blood isn't getting through the capillaries, yes, for the oxygen and the nutrients to feed the nerve endings at the extremities of the body. Yes. So I will say to people, um, get these herbs and spices into your system, eat a reasonably good diet, drink some good clean water, and that will improve your health tremendously. Of course, if you want to have a chat with me, I would also say feel free to have a chat with me as well.
Yeah. One of the things you haven't mentioned, though, is rest. You know, a lot of people have issues around sleeping, and that in itself creates stress and sends the blood sugar level up, as does, of course, having any kind of infection.
Right.
So, what about rest?
You're absolutely spot on with that one. And let me say that later tonight, when we finish this interview, I am making a Zoom presentation on behalf of um, the Garvey Village. Yes, it's a group run by a very charming lady called Auntie Jean, and this group is called the Garvey Village. And tonight, I will be making a presentation there, the same presentation I made on Friday night, and I'll be talking about a little gland in the middle of the brain called the pineal gland. And that pineal gland will actually help control your sleep. It only works in total darkness when you're sleeping. But I will tell people an easy way to get sleep, to get to sleep at night. Don't put any lights in your room, no television set, no lights or anything like that. Make sure the room is in darkness. And during the daytime, go out and get some sunlight in your eyes. And when you do that and get that sunlight in your eyes, you go to bed, you sleep like a top.
Okay.
And of course, I usually have a drink of cocoa before I go to bed.
With coconut milk in it.
With coconut milk and sometimes with a little bit of black strap molasses.
Black strap molasses.
And before I forget, there's one mineral that I completely forgot to mention, and that is called magnesium. And 98% of the people in the UK are deficient in magnesium. Exceptionally good for the heart, exceptionally good for the nerves. It makes you relax. And the best way, one of the best ways to get it is instead of having a shower, run the bathtub, get some magnesium flakes or some Epsom salts because that contains magnesium. Dunk it into the bathtub and sit down there in that warm water for about 20 minutes. And what happens is that the heat from the water opens up the pores. The magnesium leaches into the body through the pores, helps relax the heart, helps relax the whole body. And when you go to bed, you will sleep like a proverbial top.
Yeah, that's great. Isn't magnesium supposed to be present a lot in green bananas as well as ripe bananas, but more so green? Or
I've
am I
never
getting my potassium?
potassium. I was about to say potassium, but there's an element of magnesium as well. Yeah. But according to the experts, magnesium is best absorbed through the skin rather than orally. That's what the experts say. That's why I usually use the bath rather than the shower. And of course, when I come out, I also have a magnesium cream that I spray on my body and rub it in. And
Okay.
of course, it does a lot more than the heart because than help the heart because it also helps strengthen your bones. Your skeleton is see it as a larder. Yes, a calcium larder. When you drink fizzy drinks and coke and all of that, what you're actually doing is depleting the calcium from your calcium larder because Coca-Cola and all these fizzy drinks, yes, they leach the minerals out of your skeleton, and that can give rise to osteoporosis and other things later on in life. That's why you should drink water and fruit juices and all of that from the fruits you juice
Real
yourself.
fruits, yes.
Yeah, real fruits.
Liquidized fruits.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't get better than pineapple and watermelon.
I love watermelon, I've got to say. Now,
Yes.
there are a lot of people who have been listening to what you said,
Mhm.
and they are Wow. And maybe their brains all over. By the way, if you have not yet posted your questions, do post your questions and we will answer them shortly. So, people are wanting to get in contact with you, perhaps. How can they contact you through social media?
Well, I would rather, I can tell you I'm on WhatsApp, I'm on Facebook. I don't particularly like them, let me say. I'm on them because it's the thing to do. But my telephone number, I'm happy to give out.
Well, I think you're better off use your Facebook. Use your Facebook, and then you can decide who you want to talk to and who you don't.
Well, I have issues with Facebook at the moment. And let me
Okay.
tell you, I don't
Email
particularly,
address?
Vasco Stevenson at yahoo.co.uk.
Vasco Stevenson at yahoo.co.uk. Could
Yeah.
you spell Vasco and Stevenson, please?
Yes.
Because that is unusual.
Yeah. V for Victor, A for Apple, S for Sugar, C for Charlie, O for Okra.
That's
S for
Vasco
Sugar.
and Stevenson.
Yes, there's no E at the end of Vasco. Yes, not the American type of spelling. And then Stevenson is Stevenson.
Vasco Stevenson at
Yahoo.co.uk.
yahoo.co.uk. All right.
And
That way,
sometimes I say to people, you can also Google me and see what other people have said about me.
all right.
So
But
I'm
at
on
least
Google.
this way, when people connect with you, if you want to then give them your personal details, you're free to do so.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay?
That's fine with me.
I
But
think that would be the prudent way to do this.
okay, that's
Otherwise,
fine.
you get all kinds of wackos.
No, I can deal with wackos.
Yeah, the ones that ring you up in the middle of the night, I'm talking about, or early in the morning when you're sleeping.
Well, they wouldn't get me because I turn my phones down.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any other projects that you're involved in that you might like to share with the public right now?
Yes. My favorite project is in Croydon, funny enough. It's called Croydon Supplementary Education Project. It's a supplementary school and it's a charity that's been going now for about 40 years. Okay. And of course, with the virus and the shutdown and all of that, funds haven't been as coming in as regularly as it should. So if anyone wants to make a contribution to a charitable organization, then I would recommend Croydon Supplementary Education Project on 32 to 34 Sydenham Road in Croydon. Mhm. And
Okay.
sometimes when things are back to normal, I usually make presentations there in the evening.
All
And
right.
then when things are back to normal, we'll be opening it back up, and I'll be making some presentations there.
Anything else? Any other projects that you're involved in? You
Um,
mentioned something about the radio station, but you haven't given the name of the radio station or the address and how to dial in.
well, the radio station is an online radio station, so you have to go on your computer to get it. And it's called oneharmonyradio.com. That's ONE harmonyradio.com. Every Sunday morning from 10 to 12. And then the program is repeated on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock in the morning.
All right. Well, that's good. Let's see if we have any questions for you. I do have some. First is, well, guess what? What is the name of the radio station? Well, we just answered that one. The next is, I'm curious, why do you add bicarbonate of soda? Remember,
Well,
keep those questions coming.
bicarbonate of soda is said to be extremely alkalizing, and it also benefits the kidney. As you know, your body makes bicarbonate of soda as a natural process of keeping your body healthy and keeping your kidneys healthy. But as we get older, lots of things that our bodies would produce naturally are produced not in the same quantities as when we were younger. Okay, the same thing applies to water in our bodies. The water, like our age now, we would probably be having about 50% of the water that we had when we were younger. And since our organs are mainly water, we need to top that up. So that's why I use the bicarbonate of soda, because it is extremely alkalizing. It can also work sometimes as what is known as a buffer. So if your body is too alkaline, which can happen, it will reduce it back down to the recommended level. If your body is too acidic, it can sometimes raise it to that level to help bring about this state of balance that we call homeostasis.
So your understanding of bicarbonate soda is that it's a great balancer.
Correct, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the next one. Did did you have challenges with high blood pressure at the time of the original diagnosis?
Of diabetes, yes.
Yes.
Yes, because they go hand in hand, blood pressure and diabetes.
And how long did it take to go into remission or reverse the diabetes? Was it just the 21 days or a different number? How
No,
long?
I did say 4 months.
4 months.
Yes, 4 months and it was gone.
4 months.
Yes.
Okay. So my understanding is that you grasped it early
Yep.
and dealt with it as soon as it was diagnosed, and
Correct.
therefore you found it little, very little obstruction whatsoever in turning the diagnosis around.
But remember, I said you have to have a strong mindset, and I've got a fairly strong mindset. Yes. And
Mhm,
once I had read that book that the doctor had written about reversing diabetes,
mhm,
I followed his instructions to the letter, almost to the letter, because I added in the fenugreek, which he hadn't mentioned.
mhm.
Fenugreek, of course, is exceptionally good for helping detox the liver and the kidneys as well. You know, the two most important organs for detoxification, the liver and the kidneys.
Liver and
Um,
the kidneys.
and it also stimulates the pancreas to produce more insulin.
Okay. A lot of people
Mhm.
who are suffering with diabetes find that their kidneys begin to suffer more than anything else. Any
Naturally.
advice there?
Yeah. Add the fenugreek to your diet. Yes. Fenugreek and the bicarbonate of soda.
And you believe that those are the ingredients that will help more likely than not the kidney.
But I say that, but I'm assuming that these people are also going to change their diet and their lifestyle.
Hmm.
Because as I said earlier, one of the issues with people with diabetes is that they take the metformin, which is the go-to medication for diabetes, but they don't change their diet and lifestyle.
Hmm.
That's the first thing you've got to do. You've got to change that and get on to foods that are low on the glycemic index.
All
Okay?
right. Well, since you're already there, why don't you give us your closing words? Summarize everything that you have said and say your closing words, the most important things that you have to leave the audience with as an impression on their mind.
Okay. My closing words are: you've got one life to live. Try to make it a healthy one. And you can only make it a healthy one first if your thoughts are healthy, okay? If your body is healthy, and if your spirit is healthy. So have no evil thoughts towards anyone. Meditate, 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 okay? Go into yourself and have that moment of silence, and try to eat organic foods. And if you can eat some of these foods raw, yes, put them in your juicer, eat them raw, get that chlorophyll and that fiber into your system, and you'll find that your process of elimination will improve. You reduce your risk of getting any kind of degenerative disease. Follow those basic principles. Eat healthily. You don't necessarily have to eat a lot, but eat healthily. Eat foods that keep you full for a long period of time. that is complex carbohydrates. Okay, drink clean water. Always eat a certain amount of fiber. Most of these foods are fibrous foods. Your sweet potato, your plantain, your chocho, your pumpkin, your avocado, they're full of fiber as well, which helps you eliminate. And when you eliminate every day, you should be eliminating every day. That will also reduce your risk of getting colonic cancer. Yes, you don't want all that fecal matter building up in your gut because it stays in there and it putrefies, and bingo, you're diagnosed with cancer of the colon. You don't want that. You want to be eliminating every day, and you can do that by eating fibrous foods and drinking plenty of clean water. So you only have one life to live. Make sure that it's a healthy one.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you very much. Now, for those of you out there who want to connect with Vasco, remember his email address is his name, which you can see there, Vasco Stevenson at yahoo.co.uk. Send him an email if you have a question for him personally. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to call that a day. But I do want to say, if this is your first time with us, do like, subscribe, share, click the bell, and let yourself be notified of when we're on with another topic. We're going to find topics on. We want to say thank you very much, Vasco, for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation, Brother Dennis.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Really appreciate your testimony. We also want to do a little summary. Remember that Vasco makes sure that he has an MOT every year and he gets a printed copy. Make sure that you, if you can, find that book, Reverse Diabetes Now, and read it. He said he got the tip out of there about the half teaspoon of cinnamon, and that you shouldn't take any more than half a teaspoon a day. I'd like to also bring to the table, you can look up on the internet a guy by the name of Dr. Bijwaroop Roy Chowdhury. Bijwaroop Roy Chowdhury. He deals with, and in India and the subcontinent, help people to overcome diabetes. You make up your mind as to whether or not he is fake or real. And then there's another guy called Dr. Jason Fung, who deals with the partial fasting or intermittent fasting that you've heard Vasco speak about. I also want to bring to the table not just cinnamon, but Vasco spoke about fenugreek. And of course, he made sure that you have to change your lifestyle and you have to exercise. Exercise. We talked about blood pressure, the fats and the sugars and the stress being 4 important items that you have to keep under control when you're dealing with the disease of diabetes. He said you can have a naughty day, but you must discipline yourself. If you don't discipline yourself, you will get right back to where you started from. And he also told you that he only eats 2 meals a day, but that they are complex meals and healthy meals. So we've got to take all this information in and make sure that we apply these to our lives. Even if you are way down the line, you can come back from where you were and move back from the line. Is that about right, Vasco?
Absolutely spot on. Absolutely correct.
Okay. Well, we want to thank everyone for being with us tonight. Remember, like, subscribe, share, click the bell. And if you'd like to give, then do look in the DRU Dennis and see how you can give with Cash App or PayPal or some other means. We want to thank you for being with us, and we thank you for your time. We pray that today was beneficial to you, as our whole goal is to be a blessing to our people. Bye for now.